Never again.
Hello, Kratos.
What's wrong? You seem confused, Kratos. Having trouble remembering our special time together?
Your mind is troubled. I believe these belong to you. Do not let illusion deceive you. You will need this skill for the path ahead.
And what path is that?
The Furies infect your mind because you run from your oath to Ares. They will stop at nothing should you resist.
Freedom from the Furies who relentlessly hunt you in the name of Ares. And ultimately, freedom from your bond to the God of War himself.
So the Shade speaks the truth.
The intentions of Orcos are pure.
Orcos? But he is a Fury. What has brought you to this betrayal of your own kind?
The injustice of your oath that made me die. The God of War has been plotting for years. Aletheia, it was she who revealed to me the plot of Ares to overthrow Zeus. But he needed the perfect warrior.
All this effort and you still fail.
Kratos, the great Spartan general, was finally defeated.
The hard part is over, Spartan. You have committed the ultimate sacrifice.
Never.
Then let death be your reality! Truth will only bring you pain!
They were not there by chance, Kratos!
Lord Ares still holds your bond. My mother's once again made me your oathkeeper. Give me an honorable death.
The blood oath to Ares was finally broken, and the painful truth rushed back to Kratos' mind. The truth of the murder he committed, the slaughter of his wife and child, the carnage forged from his relentless ambition, surfaced in perfect clarity, and became the visions that would haunt him all of his days. Tortured by the truth of his past, Kratos left the only home he'd ever known and set out to undo all that he had wrought.
Destroy my enemies, and my life is yours!
Suffering for years, Kratos, the once great general, now known as the Ghost of Sparta, had pledged himself as a champion to the gods of Olympus. In return, he hoped only to rid himself of the nightmares that haunted him for far too long. But for now, his only respite, his only relief from the sins of his past, was found in the heat of battle. And on this day, Kratos had been called upon by the gods to confront an unthinkable evil, unleashed on the city of Attica by the invading Persian army.
welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Let's Play God of War Chains of Olympus. Chronologically, the second title in the God of War franchise, taking place after Ascension but before the original God of War, and we're just getting right into it. This is the Siege of Attica, Kratos versus the Persian army. Yeah, pretty fantastic opening. One thing about Chains of Olympus, don't let this opening fool you into thinking how this game really is. Like, this opening is really fantastic and really epic and really just a really good first impression for the game, but it is in some ways kind of a false impression of the game, because this stuff here has nothing to do with the rest of the game, and that's not uncommon. God of War, you know, has a lot of cold opens that are really epic, but don't actually connect in with the rest of the game itself. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. In this case, it doesn't at all. But it's not just the, you know, the place or the plot here that doesn't connect to the rest of the story, which is fine. Again, God of War does that all the time, or a lot of the time anyway. It's the fact that the difficulty here is not representative of what the rest of Chains of Olympus is really like. Like, Chains of Olympus is... Well, let me talk about Chains of Olympus a little bit, first of all. Chains of Olympus came out in 2008. This was in between the release of God of War 2 and God of War 3. It came out for the PSP, and it was basically a proof of concept that God of War, as a franchise, had legs to stand on, that it wasn't just going to be a console hit. It could be good anywhere. This is one of the best games on the PSP. This and the other PSP God of War game, God of War Ghost of Sparta, are two of the best games for the PSP. They were remastered, I believe 3 years later, in 2011, for the PS3. This is the version I'm playing, by the way, the PS3 version of the game, not the PSP version. Anyway, proof of concept that God of War could survive as a franchise, not just in the console, but in many different forms of media, many different consoles, novels, comics, etc., etc., etc. God of War could survive. God of War was a franchise with legs, basically. And this game had to prove that it could handle the epic, high, you know, fast-paced God of War formula, and it does. It doesn't seem like it's going to in this opening, because this opening is really easy. It's really epic, but it's really easy. But this is a really difficult game. Oh, there's a Cyclops. And yeah, by the way, something about Ascension. I kept calling these guys trolls or ogres and stuff. That's a Cyclops, obviously. The one-eyed monster. I messed it up the entire time. Anyway, here is the main monster for the cold open. This is the basilisk of the Persian army that the Persian king has set upon Attica to cleanse the city. Anyway. Very simple, basic boss. Again, not representative of what the rest of the game is like. Just dodge the attacks, block them. You can block basically everything this thing does except for the fire. I didn't mention, but I'm playing on God mode, because again, I want to show off that this is like a real God of War game. Something that I've been talking about this whole time. You know, you have the quick time events, you have the difficulty of the original God of Wars. Again, it's not going to be representative in this video necessarily, because the opening gives you the false impression of this being a very easy game, but in reality, Chains of Olympus is just as difficult as any of the God of War games. That's really what I've been trying to say this whole time. Chains of Olympus is as much a God of War game as any of the other God of War games. As much as God of War 1, 2, 3, Ascension, Ghost of Sparta. This is worthy of standing up there with the rest of them. And it's one of the best in the franchise. Decent length, it doesn't overstay its welcome. Again, it has the difficulty that is equivalent to the rest of the God of Wars. I'm going to die plenty of times. You're not going to see it for a while, the deaths, because again, the game gives you that false impression that this is actually easier than it really is, but it isn't. This is just as difficult as any God of War game. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about Chains of Olympus. Chains of Olympus is a wonderful game. I had a great time playing it. Yeah, so here we go. Nice Kratos in the middle of this battlefield here between the Persian army trying to destroy Attica, because, you know, they're just jerks. That's as much plot as you're getting for this opening. Again, this isn't the real plot of the game. This is just a nice cold open to get you into the action and stuff. So you don't really need that much setup and stuff. Just the Persians, evil, Persians invading, Persians not nice. Gotta stop the Persians. That's about it. Persians and their pet monster, obviously. As with most God of Wars, we have circle minigames where we press circle to engage in some kind of a minigame of some sort. In this case, we're moving this siege weapon here to open the gate and actually get into the city itself, because right now we're not really in the city, we're just off in the outskirts. Here is a save point for the game. We're going to engage in that in just 1 second, but first, as with all God of War games, again, just as much God of War games as any of the others, we have white chests. White chests contain either Gorgon's Eyes or Phoenix Feathers. 5 Gorgon's Eyes increase your health, 5 Phoenix Feathers increase your magic. We will be getting magic soon. These are the save points for the game. As compared to Ascension, which had those the autosave feature, Chains of Olympus onwards is going to have these rest spots provided to you by the gods, or by whatever entity is on your side for that particular game. In this case, the gods. So the gods have provided you a save point. They're going to provide you many save points throughout your journey. Take that opportunity to save your game and, you know, just save your progress. I mean, there's not much more to it than that. I mentioned it briefly before, but we are playing this game on God mode. God mode is it's the highest difficulty of God of War, Chains of Olympus. In Ascension, the highest difficulty was Titan mode. The names change for every God of War game. Sometimes they reuse names, like I believe God of War 2's hardest difficulty is again Titan mode, and I think God of War 1's highest difficulty is again God mode. They change names. It doesn't really matter. The point is, God mode is super hard mode for Chains of Olympus. Again, you're not really going to see much evidence of that now, this early on, because again, the Siege of Attica, the whole cold open of the game, really gives you a false impression that this is way easier than it's going to actually be. But we are playing on God mode. That is the highest difficulty of the game. Getting a bunch of tutorial messages, just letting those play, just because. And yeah. It's a really great opening for God of War. It's one of my favorites. Pretty straightforward. Obviously, the Hydra one from the original is pretty fantastic as well. But I like this one too. This is a pretty good opening, showing off Kratos' servitude to the gods. This takes place 5 years into Kratos' 10-year servitude for the gods. Obviously, when we get to the main first title of God of War 1, we will be getting into the end of Kratos' servitude with the gods, at the end of his 10th year of servitude to the gods. Now that he knows he has killed his wife and child, basically he is working directly for the gods now. Specifically Athena, but really all of them. Except for Ares, obviously, because Ares is a dick that kind of set this all into motion in the first place. We'll find out more about that in the original God of War. But anyway, Kratos now knows he killed his family. He's horrified by it. He wants to forget that memory that he worked so hard to remember in Ascension, and to do that, to have those memories removed from his head, he is basically working for the gods as their errand boy, doing, you know, whatever the hell they want him to do. In this case, they want him to go to Attica, stop the Persians, and kill their big monster that they shouldn't have, the giant basilisk. That's what he's doing here. This is 5 years into his servitude. Again, his servitude lasts 10 years, and he's working really hard to try to get rid of the memories of him killing his wife and child, which again, he worked really hard to try to remember in Ascension, but now that he knows, he is horrified and wants those memories removed from his head at any cost, because it just eats away at him forever. Sneaky little white chest there. By the way, there is going to be a collectibles guide, just like there was for Ascension. After all the videos are released, that collectibles guide will be available to, you know, go through and find all the white chests. There are 53 of those white chests in the game. Most of them obviously provide you Gorgon's Eyes or Phoenix Feathers. Again, 5 Gorgon's Eyes gives you more health, 5 Phoenix Feathers gives you more magic. There are a total of 15 Gorgon's Eyes in the game, so 3 health upgrades total, and a total of 15 Phoenix Feathers in the game, so a total of 3 magic upgrades. We don't have any magic yet, but we will be getting it pretty soon, so don't you worry about that. We also have red orb chests, of course. We've been opening those for a little while now. Red orb chests just have red orbs. The later in the game you get, the more red orbs you're going to get. For right now, you don't have that much to work with. This is a beam puzzle. Pretty famously not liked in the God of War franchise. That's the only one in the entire game. There's a little joke trophy for completing that. But right now we have a cutscene, so I'll get back to you after that.
What evil have you wrought on this city, Persian?
Evil? It is not evil that I bring, Spartan. I bring the might of Persia and the sacrament of purification. As we speak, my basilisk cleanses this land so that it may embrace the glory of the Persian Empire.
Olympus has sent a message, and I am here to deliver it.
Then you are just a messenger. So take this message back to your little gods. It will take more than a pathetic Spartan to stop the power of the Empire.
God, what a fucking dick. Alright, anyway, your first boss of the game is the Persian King himself. Very easy boss. He only has 3 attacks. He has this Ifrit that does area of effect damage. It also damages his guards if they're close enough, so that's cool. Then he also has 2 different types of sword attacks. One where he lights his sword up on fire and charges at you. That attack cannot be blocked. You have to dodge roll out of the way. And then he also has that attack he's doing right now, which is just a couple of regular sword swipes. That can be blocked. You don't have to roll out of the way of that if you don't want to. That sword charge where he lights his sword on fire that you saw just now, that cannot be blocked. You do have to dodge roll out of the way of that or you will take damage. Yeah, pretty easy. Persian King, as with all bosses in God of War, Chains of Olympus, and with the God of War franchise in general, bosses are kind of broken up into these mini phases. It was more obvious in Ascension than it is in Chains of Olympus, but in Chains of Olympus, as with Ascension, after you do a certain amount of health to a boss, they will give you back some green orbs. Green orbs heal your, they heal you. They give you more health back. Blue orbs give you more magic, but we'll get into that once we actually get some magic to play with. And after doing a certain amount of damage on the boss, you know, you just get some health back. That's a little reward, even on God mode. So, God mode is difficult. I'm going to die a lot of times, almost as many times as I do in Ascension, but it's not that bad. And obviously here in the very beginning of this cold open, you see, I did take one of those flaming sword attacks accidentally, and I didn't take that much damage, because in this opening of Chains of Olympus, it's very easy. There's not much to it. Very straightforward first boss, just testing you to make sure that you know how to do basic attacks and stuff. We end with a QTE, and that'll be that. Then we'll have another cutscene. So, QTE's famous in God of War at the end of every boss. So, yeah, I'll see you after this cutscene for another QTE.
Please, spare my life, and I will give you all that you ask.
You have nothing I want, Persian.
Take my kingdom, my women, my gold.
I won't take your riches, but I will take your life.
Okay, and to finish off the Persian King, we just gotta mash circle here, and that's it. Okay, nice. Persian King is down for the count. He did mention taking his women, which leads us into our very first, well, before that, got to practice our new magic attack. As with all God of War games, you do get magic attacks. Your first magic attack is going to be the best one of the game. You're going to use it a lot. It's the Ifrit, R1 triangle. Just lets the Ifrit do big area of effect damage. It does fire damage. Elemental damage is not that big a thing in Chains of Olympus as compared to Ascension, but it does exist. In this case, the Ifrit does fire damage to everything in a large radius around it. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Persian King used it, now it's ours. Anyway, now he mentioned taking his women, so that leads us into our very first sexy time minigame right here with these lovely women. So yeah, as opposed to Ascension is the only game of the franchise without a sexy time minigame. It's the only game in the Greek mythology era God of War games without a sexy time minigame. Every single other God of War game does have a QTE, where the camera tastefully cuts away to just imply stuff. I actually messed it up the first time there. The camera tastefully cuts away to, you know, not show the rated, not show the adult content here. And you will notice that in this QTE, we don't just have the button presses. We also have to smash L1 and R1, and we have to rotate the analog stick in a certain direction. I mentioned that now in the sexy time minigame because this is going to be a really, really big deal later. Later on, this is going to be very, very essential to understanding why I don't like some of the QTEs in Chains of Olympus. By the way, that save point, I'm not going to show you the save points anymore because to save time and just to not show black screens. I just, edit me saving out. So you're not going to see me save anymore. You're going to see me step into the light and then just walk away as though nothing happened. But yeah, the QTEs. There are 3 different kinds. One's where you press buttons at a certain time, like you saw with the Persian King, like you saw in the Sexy Time minigame. And then you saw the other kind of the Sexy Time minigame where, don't try to get too close to that door, by the way, the Basilisk will just kill you. Right here, all you gotta do is just knock down ladders. But anyway, the QTEs. There's 3 kinds, pressing the buttons at a certain time, smashing L1 and R1, or rotating the analog stick in a certain direction. The rotating the analog stick in a certain direction is the most difficult kind of QTE. By the way, destroying that building off in the distance with this ballista here is crucial for a bonus white chest that we're going to be getting later on, but I'll talk about that when we actually get to that white chest. When it comes to the QTEs, the rotating the analog stick like halfway in a certain direction is the most difficult one of them all. And there are some enemies that can only be killed or have QTEs that are just doing that, rotating the analog stick in a certain direction, either halfway or all the way, and they are very finicky. They're very difficult to get right. In a practice playthrough with the Sexy Time minigame and with the enemies that have that particular QTE attached to them, very difficult to get right. I messed it up a lot, and you don't want to mess up QTEs in God mode. Obviously, with the Sexy Time minigame, there's no consequence for messing up, but when it comes to certain enemies, when it comes to all enemies with QTEs, if you mess up the QTE, not only do you have to do the QTE again, but you take damage, and you take a lot of damage. We're going to see this in the next episode of Chains of Olympus, but you take a lot of damage from messing up QTEs. It's one of my few complaints with Chains of Olympus. It's just how unrelenting the damage you take is if you mess up a QTE. It's insane just how much damage you take when you mess up a QTE. So, especially if you're in low health, there's going to be times when you don't want to, use QTEs to kill enemies. You just want to kill them the normal way. There are certain advantages to killing enemies with QTEs. For example, certain enemies have an affinity for health. So if you kill the enemy with a QTE, then they will give you more health back. Some will give you more magic back. In God mode, that doesn't really matter too much because health orbs don't give you as much health back as they do in lower difficulties, and magic orbs don't give you as much magic back as they do in lower difficulties. Anyway, right now we're being introduced to the Cyclops. We saw one at the very beginning, obviously, but it got killed by the Basilisk. Now we actually get to actually fight one for realsies. Obviously, as I've been saying this entire time about this whole opening of Chains of Olympus, it's very easy right now. Don't be fooled though. Cyclopses can be kind of annoying. Out of all of the giant mythical creature enemies you fight in this game, the Cyclopses are the easiest. So this is kind of representative of how you'll be dealing with Cyclopses later down the line. But don't be fooled, because there's still going to be times when Cyclopses can potentially kick your ass, do more damage to you, get armor and shit as well. That's stuff that we'll be covering later down the line when the game really gets started. But for now, this is just a nice introductory fight to mythical creatures. The fact that you're not just fighting, dudes all the time. You're also going to be fighting actual giant monsters. In God mode, you can still take heavy punishment from these mythical creatures, not in the same way that you do in Ascension. In Ascension, you take a lot of damage from regular attacks and shit, but in God mode here, at least for now, you don't really take that much damage. When we get to the second half of the game in Chains of Olympus, you're gonna see just how much fucking damage we take from even basic attacks. It's insane. Yeah. Anyway, that was the Cyclops. Very straightforward fight there, basically. For now, anyway. Later on, obviously, it's gonna get more complicated when the game really gets started, but for now, it's all good. It's all just a nice, comfortable cold open for this entire thing. And we continue forward. We have a couple of archers here. Archers are going to be really annoying later on. Not these ones, obviously. These ones are really easy. They don't do that much damage. But later down the line, we're going to be facing some archers that, holy shit, they can be brutal. And you definitely want to prioritize archers all the time when you really get into the meat and potatoes of this game. Obviously, right now, again, it doesn't really matter, but later down the line, oh man. White chests. I mentioned that they contain Gorgon's eyes and phoenix feathers. Not all of them do. There are a total of 53 white chests in the game, and obviously once you collect all 15 Gorgon eyes and phoenix feathers, any white chest that would have originally contained a Gorgon eye or phoenix feather will just contain a bunch of red orbs instead. But in this game, there are going to be some white chests, even before you collect all 15 Gorgon eyes and phoenix feathers. There's just going to be some white chests that already have nothing but red orbs and health or magic. I don't know why, but that's going to be something you start seeing in part 2. It's a total of 53 of these white chests in the game. That particular white chest there inside that destroyed building can only be accessed if you use the ballista from earlier on when I was talking about the analog stick QTEs. You have to aim at that building off in the middle distance before destroying the basilisk, or even after a kill, or even after attacking the basilisk, to create that hole in the building and get that white chest and get that bonus Gorgon eye, so that you can actually fill out your health sooner than average. You're not going to get enough Gorgon eyes or phoenix feathers during this whole Attica portion of the game to actually level up your health or your magic. Again, this whole first section of the game is super easy, and they don't want you to be too overpowered for it in a regular first playthrough. So no matter what, you're not gonna already level up your health or anything for this first bit. This first bit, you're always going to be stuck with your base health and your base magic, unless of course you do a New Game Plus. By the way, those ladders that you saw there, they do respawn, unlike the ladders in the section with the ballista that we had to shoot at the basilisk and the building in the middle distance. In this section, the ladders do respawn, so you can practice killing enemies here if you want to get good at basic combos and stuff. But otherwise, just knock the ladders down to provide a little brief respite between Persian soldiers, and then pull the lever to actually come down and advance through this area. Otherwise, you'll be fighting Persian soldiers up in that rooftop forever, because again, those ladders do respawn, but Persians just keep respawning and respawning and respawning. So, good place to practice combos, but otherwise, just make your way down gear to continue on. Remember, Chains of Olympus rule, or God of War rule in general, always be exploring, ABE, always be exploring. You're always going to want to be looking at little nooks and crannies and stuff for white chests, for red orb chests, for, things to break and get more red orbs from in general. We're going to be seeing more of that, especially next time, but yeah, in general, ABE, always be exploring, Chains of Olympus rule, Ascension rule, God of War rule in general. Even in the most recent PS4 title, you want to always be exploring stuff. This area here is basically a final test for you before we get to the end of this first opening area. This first opening area, not that long. It's pretty short compared to a lot of God of War cold open areas, less than 40 minutes. I believe the Ascension one was nearly 50 minutes long. But this one is a little under 40, so it's a little shorter, little taxing for you to deal with. Again, PSP title. They wanted to prove that you can do God of War on mobile consoles as well as main home consoles, but they also didn't want to make it too crazy. So that's why Chains of Olympus is only half the length of a traditional God of War. The mainline God of Wars usually last you about 8 hours. About the length that it took me to finish Ascension is about the length it'll take you to finish the first God of War, the second God of War, and 3. But Chains of Olympus and Ghost of Sparta, I believe, are about half that length. So Chains of Olympus is going to take me about 4 hours to finish. And Ghost of Sparta, I think, is a little longer than that. It's either like 4.5 hours or 5 hours. It's not that much longer. It's longer, but it's not that much longer. Chains of Olympus is, not counting the non-canonical games or like the mobile Facebook game, Chains of Olympus is the shortest mainline God of War game. in the franchise, clocking in at about 4 hours if you know what you're doing. And even if you don't know what you're doing, it's going to take you like 4.5 hours maybe. It's not that long. It may seem in this area as though those Persian soldiers were infinite, but they were not. It shouldn't be, because this area is going to teach you how to push boxes around in God of War. In Ascension, we saw a different way of doing it, but in Chains of Olympus and in most of the regular God of War games, it works like this, where you can move things around just by holding circle in any direction you want. But if you want to speed things up, you have to hold down R1 for Kratos to charge up his kick. And when he's done grunting, as you heard there, you get the maximum distance from your kick. As we saw in Ascension as well, you can also move around dead bodies. They can be used to manipulate switches and solve puzzles for you. This is a very easy puzzle right here. First of all, you have 2 objects to press down on 2 buttons. You can either use the dead body or the block, but it's going to become obvious that you have to use the block for the first button, because you can't move the block up the stairs, but you can take the dead body up the stairs. So block on the first button, dead body on the second button. Nice, easy puzzle. Already done so. And yeah, we're basically done with this opening area. Obviously, we still have a little one more fight to go through, but now we get an opportunity to look at the menu. Similar to Ascension, we have 3 little menus here. We'll be seeing the 3rd menu next episode, I believe, but we'll see the first 2 right now. The first one, obviously, is to upgrade your weapons. The second one is to get a list of what your weapons are and all the moves you can do with said weapons. So, if you were wondering how to do certain things with your Blades of Chaos or the Ifrit, here you can take a look. You can also see how many other weapons and stuff you'll be getting throughout your journey. You'll notice I'm not upgrading anything yet. In Ascension, I took the opportunity at first chance to upgrade my Blades of Chaos as soon as possible. This time, I'm not doing that, for the simple reason that the first thing I want to upgrade is the Ifrit. The Ifrit, as I mentioned earlier, is a very useful magic spell. It becomes far more useful at level 2, which is why I am waiting just a little longer to actually make my my first purchase, my first upgrade. Besides, this first boss is not that difficult. You don't need better Blades of Chaos for this. At this point, you're just fine with the basic shit. So yeah, here we go. First boss of the game. Kratos runs off to this bridge. I don't know why. Guess he's looking for a way to leave, but he knows he's got to kill this basilisk. Maybe he was hoping the basilisk would just follow him, because it's obviously pissed off at him for losing an eye. And yeah, now we have our real boss battle with the basilisk. We fought it once already, but now it's time for the real shit. Similar to the first encounter with it back at the shores of Attica. Has only 2 kinds of attacks. It's going to have physical attacks, all of which you can block, as you can see. No trouble there. And it's going to have a fire attack. The fire attack cannot be blocked. You have to dodge it. You can also use the Ifrit to... You can use the Ifrit's invincibility frames to both not take damage from the fire and to do some damage yourself as it's breathing fire. It speeds up the fight a lot by doing that. Once you do enough damage to it and push it back 3 times, it's going to go all the way up to the gate there. Do a zigzag pattern here to avoid the fire. This is the most damaging attack of the basilisk. This attack can kill you in like 2 seconds if you get hurt by it, because it stun block you, and it's devastating getting hit by that fire. Don't get hit by that fire at all, or you will die immediately. My test playthrough, I died like 20 times to this thing because I didn't know how to properly dodge that fire, and that fire kills you in like 2 fucking seconds. So this fire too does a lot of damage. That any fire attack the basilisk does at any point in the first fight or this fight is devastating to you. Do not take damage from the fire at all if you can help it. Again, you can dodge it. You can use the Ifrit for invincibility frames. Occasionally, the basilisk will attempt to just eat you. So just do a little QTE there to automatically push it back. It does it randomly, but it is faster than just attacking it until you do enough damage to push it back. Every time you push it back, you get some health back and stuff, so yeah. Again, do the zigzag pattern here to dodge the fire. The fire is devastating. Don't get hurt by that fire, or you will die in like 2 seconds. And there we are. That is the end of that. The end of the basilisk there. By the way, you can use that section with the basilisk when it's shooting fire at you and stuff to get your 1,000 hit combo trophy. I don't show it off in this Let's Play series, but I'll link a video to it in the description below that you can use this section to very quickly get the 1,000 hit combo trophy just by attacking the foot of the basilisk. Anyway, once you do it, anyway, in the third phase, it's going to attack faster and stuff, but you just do a little bit of damage to the final QTE here and you're done. That's the end, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you all in part 2. Bye-bye.
Fulfilling his commitment to the gods, Kratos defeated the basilisk brought forth by the Persians. But this small victory would not satisfy the man who had come to be known as the Ghost of Sparta.
Is this all you would have me do? Is there nothing else?